Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Golden Hour. I'm Kelly Woodman.
And I'm Leah Catherine Williams.
And we're so excited to have you guys here tonight with us. First up, we're going to talk about big giving. So, Wyndham Hotels and Resorts provides a free night stay for essential workers around the globe in honor of National Responders Day. Over 45,000 workers got to participate in this. Samaritan Purse is giving emergency relief to affected families who are forced to flee from their homes in war-torn areas of the world. Coke, along with other companies, have sponsored Women in Technology's annual Women of the Year awards that celebrate females of science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. Boeing has committed $1.3 million to support Indigenous communities across the U.S., and this includes things like cleaner water and education programs. PayPal invests $50 million into Black and Latino businesses.
That is so encouraging. You know, honestly, when we were looking for research for this, it was just not hard to find that there is so much big giving right now. It's insane.
I think this pandemic is really waking people up and seeing the need that's around the world and in our own country of how much people are in need, and they're wanting to fill that need.
Yes, I mean, if you listen to kind of review all the people we've talked about, we've got frontline workers that have been given free hotel night stay. We've got Samaritan's Purse, who's giving to war-torn areas. We've got Coke, who is giving towards women and technology. Then we've got Boeing, who's giving towards Indigenous communities, and then PayPal giving to Black and Latino communities. So
yeah,
it's amazing. I just love hearing that corporate America is using their money for good and not to fill their pockets. I just think that deserves a shout out.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I kept thinking about the Wyndham hotel stay and how fun that would be. They essentially just gave you enough points for a one night stay for any of their hotels. They're in 90 different countries around the world. I mean, that would just be a really fun relief to get to do that one weekend.
They did have to apply. They had to put their name in and say, hey.
That's true.
But it was free. And what's amazing about that is hotels have struggled this year, but yet they still said, hey, we want to give free hotel stays to these people, and they are more deserving it than we are. And so, I love
it.
That's what
it's
the
just
giving
a cool
spirit
thing.
is. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The U.S. Labor Department recently received its job report for October, and unemployment is now down 7.8 points to a solid 6.9% for the month of October. According to the U.S. Secretary of Labor, Eugene Scalia, 900,000 jobs were gained in September and October separately, which means that is twice the amount.
Ooh.
He also mentioned that Asian, Black, and Hispanic Americans all saw substantial decreases in unemployment. This rate is also now lower for adult women than for adult men. So yeah, I thought that was very interesting how it seems that women are more that are out of unemployment than men, which means more women have jobs than men. That's what it said.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about just, and you think about even just 60 years ago, women were not considered eligible for most jobs or a lot of jobs that men do. So
wow,
that does make me sad for men. I mean, I don't want anybody to be out on the streets without jobs, but just how far women have come. I mean, we really are at a place where we're considered equal, I think.
Well, also what's interesting about the statistic, guys, is pre-COVID in January, the unemployment rate was at 3.5%, which steadily stayed there, and then it went up, ticked 4.4 around March, April, and then when the pandemic hit, it jumped to 14.7% and has slowly come down and now is at 6.9%. So I think we're in for even more of a decrease of that, because as everyone knows, the stock market is doing great right now, and I think we're going to see more confidence in hiring people, and I just really believe it's going to be down to where it was before, maybe even lower than that.
That's awesome.
And it's just amazing. And, I can't speak to anyone's experience. For me particularly, it has been hard. But I just am so encouraged by this. and we wanted to point that out.
And the manufacturing sector saw big gains in October. Notching a sixth consecutive month of growth, some of the industries that saw growth include apparel, food, furniture, technology, and appliances. I mean, there's so many people who are having to work from home. So many people are ordering in from Instacart. It makes a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, remember that toilet paper surge, guys? The craziness? Well, that had an effect on people's jobs, and
People
we're
having to
seeing
use
the results. Yep.
Coffee filters as toilet paper because toilet paper was gone.
Yeah.
So everybody was making big gains in the paper biz.
I used Kleenex for a while, and they're actually pretty soft. And
That's good.
Threw them
nice.
away.
It's not good for the septic tank.
Yeah, TMI there. But hey, it's 2020.
It is 2020.
There's no filter this
Everyone
year.
understands.
But yeah, also, home office supplies, like you were saying, and people are, like ordering desks and chairs, and, somebody I know, their employer actually gave them a stipend to buy home office supplies for their house, and it was a pretty big chunk. It was really amazing.
Awesome.
Yes.
I mean, even us, we had to buy these things. Yep. People helped us. I mean, it was pretty cool. So we could work from home.
But a sixth consecutive month of growth, which is awesome. And I'm just going to raise the roof over that. Raising the roof.
I mean, it's awesome. There's really cool things that are happening.
Yeah.
The economy is getting better, people. So that is a praise.
2020 is taking an upturn.
Yep. We are here at Enterprise South, one of the many public parks protected by the Great American Outdoors Act. The Great American Outdoors Act, signed on August 4th of this year, the act provides $900 million a year in guaranteed funding for the Land and Water Conservation Fund so that all Americans can continue to enjoy our parks and wildlife. Additionally, the bill provides nearly $10 billion for long-delayed maintenance projects, repairs, and upgrades to make the national parks greater than they have ever been before.
Outdoor retailer REI Co-op recently announced its used gear trade-in program. Earlier last month, REI Co-op announced the expansion of its re-commerce business by piloting 2 used gear pop-up stores and its trade-in program, giving members more ways to buy and share gently used outdoor gear. Through the co-op's online member-only trade-in program, members can send in gently used gear in exchange for REI gift card credit while keeping products out of the landfill.
This summer, the outdoor industry made more money as Americans were spending a lot more time outside because of the pandemic. This summer, there was a huge spike in spending on outdoor activities. The bike industry gained $697 million. The kayak and paddleboard industry gained $172 million. Golf saw big gains with an increase of $661 million. Camping gained $605 million, and birdwatching made $16 million. The U.S. has committed $1 billion to the 3 Cs initiative. The initiative is designed to promote cooperation between 12 European nations and their partners, contributing to economic growth and energy security, as well as to boost cohesion and unity in Europe. Every year, it brings together 12 countries: Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Slovenia, Austria, Croatia, Romania, and Bulgaria.
The nonprofit Preemptive Love is finding new ways to end war. Founded by Jeremy Courtney right after the U.S. attacks on 9/11, Preemptive Love's main goal is to end war. According to their research, rising temperatures, water shortages, grasslands turn to desert, and shrinking farmland is what actually leads to war. So instead, they invest in hyper-local solutions like co-ops, community gardens, displaced farmers, and rooftop greenhouses so families have what they need right where they are. And in every case, they prioritize the vulnerable, those most likely to be affected by violence and recruited into terrorism. They're already doing this in Mexico, Syria, and Iraq, and are looking to expand to more countries. You can help by donating on their website at preemptivelove.org.
Wow, That's amazing.
Yeah.
I appreciate them figuring out the root cause of wars. I feel like a lot of people don't look into that. And for them to get to the root to the problem and to try to make a change in that before it even begins, that's brilliant.
Yes, I actually heard the founder speak in New York City at an event, and he shared his story. It's very powerful, and you should definitely go to his website. He has a book and to read more. But he after 9/11, he wanted to go to the Middle East right after that. People thought he was crazy, but he just knew he needed to go right in there and start loving on people. And so actually started with him going there. And he didn't know what he was supposed to be doing. He was, and he was in this cafe, and this man just approached him and said, I think it was his niece. So sorry, guys, if I'm butchering this. I'm just talking on the top of my head. But I think it was this man's niece she had a heart defect, and she was dying. And he was like, "Can you help my niece?" And he's like, I can't do anything. I'm not a doctor. I can't help you. And he kept saying, no, I can't help you. And he's like, well, you're an American. You must know somebody who can help her. And so he's like, all right, I'll do something. I'll try to do something. And so he just made some calls and was able to get her this surgery that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to find. Wow. And so she was saved because he knew people and this other man didn't. And he realized that this was a potential just from that alone was a way to bring people together. And he was sharing these stories of, maybe like a Sunni surgeon and a Shiite family would come together because they had to work together to make this happen. And the Sunnis and Shiites don't normally work together.
No,
and so
that's a big deal.
And so that's kind of where it started. And so they've been working in the Middle East and all over the world really to find solutions to end war. And, one thing that really blew my mind was that he knows people who've been recruited into jihad, terrorist groups. And he was like, they're recruited because they need to pay the bills, and it's a way to pay the bills, and that's their only option. And so they exist to take away that only option. And so, and that's a recent article I saw on their website was investing in farming and investing in giving them life-giving ways to support their families so they don't have to be recruited in terrorism. So it's amazing. You guys should check it out. Preemptivelove.org. They have a lot of paraphernalia. It just says love wins. It's great. Huge fan. Anyway, just had to give them a shout out, and I apologize, Jeremy, if you're watching this and I didn't accurately share your story. Anyway, but you guys just check it out.
Yeah, I'm going to check it out. So coming up next, we got an interview that's very special to me. In honor of Veterans Day, I got to interview my dad, D.B. Smith V. He is a retired special operations helicopter pilot. And it was just really cool to get to hear him talk about what that looked like, his journey into the Army, how he got there. A lot of my childhood was during war. And so he got to do a lot of really cool missions that really helped out our country and kept us safe. It was just really an honor to talk to him about these things.
Great. I can't wait to see it.
Well, let's watch. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today, Dad. I'm excited to interview you on your Army career for Veterans Day.
You bet. Glad to be doing it.
So let's just jump right in. How old were you, and what motivated you to want to go into the Army?
All right. Well, I was 21 when I joined. There's a little bit of a backstory to that. And right up front, I just want to say that it's a story about Jesus, redemption, grace, forgiveness, and the amazing power of what Jesus can do when you turn your life over to him. So, grew up in Colorado Springs, or the area around Colorado Springs, which is where the Air Force Academy is. And from about second grade on, I wanted to go to the Air Force Academy and be a fighter pilot. So that was my dream. That's what as much as any kid was working, that's what I was working towards. So my dad died when I was 12, and our our family kind of hit a speed bump at that point in time. And me in particular, I kind of went off the rails and was very directionless and didn't do things the right way. I wound up dropping out of high school when I was 17, and all the things you can imagine a 17-year-old high school dropout is doing. Bad, this was in the 70s with all that, notable period of American history. So not good stuff going on, and kind of knocked around for a while. So from 17 to 21, a lot of stuff I'm embarrassed about. Won't go into the details or anything, but it wasn't what was good. And I figured my dream of being a fighter pilot was over. And, it was. So I decided that I was destroying my life and that I needed to do something new. So I decided to join the Army. And because I was a high school dropout with basically no skills or talent, I very happy that the Army was giving me a chance.
Yeah.
So I joined as an infantryman and to go to the 82nd to be a paratrooper. So that occurred right when I turned 21. And God was at work, and the day I joined the Army was my first date with your mother. And she was not super happy about me joining the Army, but my mind was made up, and she basically grew to accept the plan. And she was not quite, she can tell her own story at some point, but we were birds of a feather. I'll just leave it at that. So we both decided to recommit our lives to the Lord and make Jesus Lord. And we started right there, and we moved forward from there. So age 21, joined the Army, and God is at work.
That's awesome. So your first goal was to be a paratrooper. How did it go on from there?
Okay, so Army is a great meritocracy, and if you want to work hard and volunteer, they will allow you to continue to progress and move up, because they're happy to let you succeed, because when you succeed, they succeed. And they want, in an all-volunteer Army, they want people who are dedicated to service. So they will always afford people the opportunity to do better in life. I got a little ahead of the curve. Kind of funny, my recruiter, when I did try to enlist, I said there was two things I want to do. I want to be Special Forces, Ranger, or a pilot, because all of those were certainly options back then, and they still are. So he told me that the only option he had was to join the infantry as a paratrooper, but when I got to Fort Bragg, I could go to Special Forces. And he said, the home of Special Forces is at Fort Bragg, right? And of course yes, absolutely. I know all about that. So he said, so as soon as you report to Fort Bragg, you go straight to Special Forces and tell them that you want to be in Special Forces. So before you sign in anywhere else, you can go sign in and you can get into Special Forces that way. So I actually followed his advice and went to the Special Forces unit there at Fort Bragg, the training unit, not one of the groups, but and told them that I had just finished jump school and infantry one station unit training and was ready to come be a Special Forces soldier. And the two NCOs in there basically laughed at me and said, son, why don't you go learn how to do your job first, and when you've been in the Army about 3 or 4 years and you know what you're doing, you can come back and talk to us. So very chastened, I went back and started my life as an infantryman. But I had not learned my lesson yet, though. I also put in a flight packet while I was still a very young paratrooper private, and I was rejected. That's a more significant process, so I'm sure that the board thought the same thing. They looked at my background, high school dropout, no skills, and I did great on all the testing, but that's not enough. They want some form of guarantee that you have the correct character to do the awesome responsibility that they're trusting you with. So I accepted that, and I continued on as an infantryman, and a couple of years in the 82nd, went down to Panama, was in a recon team in Panama for several years. It's where we started having children, and I re-enlisted to go to the Ranger Regiment. So I wound up as a squad leader in 2nd Ranger Battalion, which is a special operations unit, elite infantry, and continued to do well there, and put in another flight packet. And that's actually a funny story as well. But the two of the other squad leaders in my platoon were going to go special forces and wanted me to go with them, and I thought that sounded like a great idea. And Andrea, my wife, said, "You always wanted to be a pilot. Why don't you put in that flight packet again?" And I was like, there's no way. They've already told me that I am not what they're looking for. And she said, well, if you will put in that flight packet, if it gets turned down again, you can go be special forces. That is always there. So let's just try this, and then we'll go special forces if we have to. So I put in the flight packet, and miracle.
Third time's the charm.
Well, that was actually the second time.
Was it the second? Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I only did it because you only had to tell me no once. So.
And you were done.
Yes, I thought that was it. So.
Oh my goodness.
But great example of God taking the wreckage and destruction that I had made in my life, carefully, methodically, through yielding to Him, letting Him be Lord, letting Him move us and place us where He wanted us.
Yeah.
And just being obedient, not trying to run ahead or to the left or right, but let Him just order our steps.
Yeah.
And He gradually rebuilt the wreckage into something pretty amazing. So went to flight school, having been a Ranger, I learned about this amazing organization called the 160th. My first assignment out of flight school was Fort Richardson, Alaska. So Ethan was born up there. Was up there for a couple of years, and once I became a pilot, I knew that the 160th is where I wanted to be, and I wanted to fly little birds. So I began pestering their recruiters to give me an opportunity to try out for the unit. There's an assessment process where they handpick all of their pilots, and you have to go through a pretty rigorous selection process before they'll even let you in the unit. Once you are selected, there's a 6-month training program, and then it takes a year and a half to 2 years to become a fully mission qualified pilot. So it's not a rapid process, and it just takes time. So I volunteered, and I was selected. I was a very junior pilot. I had not,
How many years at that point had you been flying?
2.
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years out of flight school. So I actually was the most junior person in the unit at that time. Unit was a lot different, a lot smaller, highly classified. The famous Black Hawk Down in Mogadishu incident, the Battle of the Black Sea, or Gothic Serpent, or several other names it's known by, had not occurred yet. And because of that horrible incident, the horrible situation that developed, basically the secret was let out of the bag. The 160th was no longer a secret. So the unit changed a bit, and then certainly once post 9/11 and the need for special operations to be so involved in all the overseas operations, and the need for good aviation assets to support the ground forces, the unit grew dramatically. So it was also much, much smaller back in those days. It's a very large efficient and very effective fighting unit now.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So I remember I was about 6, I remember, when we moved to be closer to the 160th. So that was back in the early 90s, or late 90s, I guess, at that point.
Yep. I actually got to the unit in 92 and made FMQ, fully mission qualified. Mm-hmm. And the aircraft, the Little Bird, is not considered an advanced aircraft, so there's a push for all Army aviators to get an advanced aircraft. So I got the OH-58D, the Kiowa, and I did a tour in the Air Cav, and that was at Fort Hood, Texas. So that's what you're remembering, is we went and did 2 years down there.
Yeah.
And then in 98, we came back to the unit and have been here ever since. So
that's so awesome. I remember post 9/11, the war, started pretty quickly, and I remember you starting to travel a lot. What did it look like to be in the 160th and do that war?
Obviously, 9/11, very intense moment for America, and kind of a world-changing event, honestly. Yeah. We're still involved heavily in the Middle East, and everybody in America, it's hard to imagine the feeling that was going on nationally at that point. I remember watching, your mom called me from work because I was flying nights, so I was home in the morning. Beautiful September morning, just crystal clear blue skies, temperature was perfect. And she called and said, "You have to turn on the TV." So saw the first tower, the smoke, and it's like, wow, a plane hit it. And, of course, all the speculation going on at that point was that it, private plane or something had run into it. And then as I'm watching, plane number 2 came in, and you knew that we were now at war, that things were never going to be the same. And I immediately left. We are a quick response unit. We're tasked with the responsibility of being able to deploy anywhere in the world at very fast notice. It's that's classified, so I'm not going to talk about that response capability that we're capable of, but knew that it was happening. So, of course, then the Pentagon happened, and terrible day for America. And, we knew that something was going to happen. And so we immediately went into planning mode for how we would perform the initial response. So I was part of the initial deployment for special operations going into Afghanistan, and we just got very busy. And I was at the point in my career, in my 160th career, that in 2003, when we invaded Iraq, that I was in a position to be one of the leaders of the unit, called a flight lead, and essentially was a flight lead throughout at least the Little Bird entire history in the Middle East. I actually stayed in the Army a lot longer than was necessary because my unit was involved. We had aircraft deployed, and we were a little different from how conventional units handle deployments, because we supported specific ground units who maintained a presence there year-round, every year of the war. We were there as well, and what we did was we maintained aircraft over there, and we would rotate crews on a periodic basis. So we didn't have 18-month deployments. We had times of deployments that were much more reduced than that, and we kind of got it down to a science on what sort of strain, psychological strain, work strain, whatever you want to call it, that air crews could function at a high level before they started becoming complacent and somewhat dangerous, where, they become at a higher risk for an accident or, just not being able to be properly focused on the mission.
Yeah.
Because the mission pace, as you can imagine, with the best ground units in the military in the world, is a very high pace. And when, a fleeting target presents itself, you've got to go right then. There's not time to wait around and debate it or determine whether or not this is, if it's working out perfectly. You have to move quickly. So it's just it's a stressful environment and a very fast pace. So we discovered that maintaining the aircraft over there and rotating air crews was the best solution for our organization. And I very early on determined that this was not a sprint, and a lot of guys mentally sprinted. And you know how when you sprint, after about a half mile, you are done. But if you have the mentality that it's a marathon and not a sprint, you figure out how you're going to have to pace yourself to be able to continue for the long haul. And I was able to go until we pulled the last aircraft out of Afghanistan. So that's actually when I dropped my retirement paperwork, was when we pulled that last aircraft. And I said, this is the time. 32 years.
That's a long time.
It was. And I was very proud to be frontline combat unit that whole time, right up to my retirement.
Yeah.
So,
well,
one of the things I'm most proud of.
Well, it's one of the things I'm most proud of, too. So what does it look like now that you're retired? What do you do now?
Okay. So I retired, and my desire was to go move into a completely different realm of aviation. So I'm a pilot. I fly helicopters. So I got a job flying helicopters in the Gulf of Mexico, supporting the oil and gas industry, which got me away from home pretty much on the same pace that I was away from home when I was in the Army, which really isn't your goal when you've retired.
Yeah.
So the flying was fun. The guys were great. I got tons of flight time. I mean, it was a lot of fun flying, but 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off is that's 2 weeks off, which when you're off in the Army back here after deployment, you're not really off because you still got to go support training events and all the other stuff. But when you're off on your off time in the Gulf of Mexico, you're really off. So that part of it was easy to get used to. But being away from the family 2 weeks out of every single month, that really was not what I was looking for after spending, I mean, most of my Army career, I was in the field or deployed at least 6 months out of the year.
Yeah.
So kids, you guys all sacrificed and put up with a lot, and so did your mom, and that really wasn't what we needed to be doing then. So didn't know it, but I was kind of looking for something else, but I wasn't really looking. So God at work again.
Yeah.
I got an email from LinkedIn, because when you get out of the Army, they tell you have to have a LinkedIn account. So I did what I was told, and I made one, and I got an email from Lockheed Martin Human Resources, and I ignored the first one, and then the second one came a few days later, and it was very specific. It was asking if I wanted to be a maintenance test pilot for the training unit for the 160th, which is here at Fort Campbell as well. So I gave them a call, and sure enough, they wanted the skills that I had. So they brought me back to Fort Campbell, and a very predictable schedule, and working with the guys, all older and grayer now, but same guys that I worked with before. So I became a maintenance test pilot and did that for a year. And then an opening opened up in the training company. So I went over there, and I became an instructor pilot to train the guys going into the company that I served in for over 20 years. So training the new Little Bird assault pilots, and that was great. I enjoyed that, but still felt like there was something else that I could do. And the next thing that opened up is our research and development. The special operations, is constantly looking for the latest and greatest innovations to improve flight safety, capabilities, efficiency, new levels of technology, whatever, and getting it to the guys on the line unit. So opportunity opened up that they needed a guy who knew the Little Bird mission and would like to help with the innovation and development of new technologies to improve the capabilities for the Little Bird pilots continuing to do missions. So that really intrigued me. And so now I am a developmental test pilot and got the latest next generation MH6 in the works, and got a whole lot of really cool things on it. And we're currently deep into testing right now and expect the aircraft to go full production here this year, late this year, and hope to get the first couple aircraft to the guys across the street early 22.
That's awesome.
Very exciting.
I love that you still are getting to work with the 160th and you're still flying and you're doing what you did, your career, your dream. That started when you were a kid, and just the way God worked it all the way through to now.
Yes, very amazing. God is good.
Yep. Well, thanks so much, Dad. Thanks for taking the time and doing this interview. I'm really thankful. I'm really excited to get to share this with folks, and hope everyone has a good Veterans Day. Make sure you thank a veteran. And thank you so much, Dad.
Oh, well, thanks, sweetie.
Well, that was so much fun getting to interview my dad. I'm glad you guys got to see it, got to see who my dad is just a little bit. I just personally really love that he still gets to fly helicopters, specifically Little Birds, which is what he flew and wanted to fly in the 160th. And now he is helping create the next generation of Little Bird helicopters and gets to be a part of that. I'm so proud of him, and I just think it's so cool.
I love it. Love it. It's so neat. It's just so neat just to think of all the cool jobs people have, and that your dad is doing what he loves still.
Yes.
He's not just sitting around being retired. He's doing amazing work, and we want to honor that because it's Veterans Week, really.
Yep. It should be a week.
It should be a week. So happy Veterans Week.
Yes. Thank a veteran.
To your dad. Yes. And all you veterans out there, thank you so much for your service. And we are big fans of you, and we are on your side. So thank you.
Well, guys, thanks for watching this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.
All right. See you next time.